Thanks for joining us, and today we're going to talk about the secret of Kriya Yoga. So Kriya Yoga actually has a couple of secrets, not just one. And there are actually more secrets than that, but I'm going to tell you about two main secrets of Kriya Yoga. Now, if you know anything about Kriya Yoga was originally taught by a teacher from India called Lahiri Mahashai or Lahiri Baba in the late 1800s. And Kriya Yoga is famous for being a very advanced type of spiritual practice that leads one to get into a deep meditative state. And so there are many schools of Kriya Yoga that have divulged from Lahiri Baba's teaching. Some of them are the householder lineages, such as the one that I'm part of, which is a Panchanan Bhattacharya lineage. Panchanan Bhattacharya was Lahiri Baba's preeminent disciple, and so I'm part of that lineage. There are other lineages that have branched off and so on. Some are monastic lineages. And at the end of the day, Kriya Yoga is seen as this very advanced way to get into a meditative state. Now, one of the secrets about Kriya Yoga that a lot of people from the different lineages don't really understand, at least in this way, is that Kriya Yoga is leveraging the parasympathetic nervous system. So we have a central nervous system in the body. We have the sympathetic nervous system, which we can think of as the fight or flight aspect of our nervous system. It allows us to do things, to be active in the world. The other part of our nervous system is the parasympathetic, sometimes called the rest and digest. And what this does is allows us to get into a low idle state. So you can think about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system as if you're driving a car. The gas is the sympathetic and the brake is the parasympathetic. You need both of those to operate. But the advantage of the parasympathetic nervous system is that it can lead you into an internalized state. Certainly we use the parasympathetic nervous system to get us into a low idle state when we go to sleep so we can rest, that our body can recuperate. But we can also leverage the parasympathetic nervous system in meditation. Now, this is the reason why Kriya Yoga is different from other types of meditation practices. Some meditation approaches, such as just following your breath, which is very common to different meditation traditions, don't actually leverage the body's parasympathetic nervous system. So in general, most people are breathing at a rate of about 12 to 15 breaths per minute. If you follow your breath, just doing a meditation practice of following your breath, you're breathing too quickly to actually get into an internalized state. So what Kriya Yoga does is to work on the breath rate. It does this through a system of intentional breathing that slows down the breath. And basically what it does is it slows down your breath rate per minute to be about 7 breaths per minute or less. And what that does is it has an effect on your central nervous system, in particular your parasympathetic nervous system, which then slows down your heart rate as well. So when you have a slow breath and a slow heart rate, you start to get more relaxed and you start to get an internalization happening, what we call pratyahara in yoga. So the secret, the first major secret of Kriya Yoga is that it leverages a form of intentional breathing to bring the body into a low idle state. Now this might not seem like much, but it is, because it means that you can skip 20 or more years of following your breath technique, which will eventually slow down your breath rate and your heart rate over a substantial period of time. You can skip all of that and go directly to controlling the rate of your breath, right? And so Kriya Yoga allows you to very quickly activate your parasympathetic nervous system and to bring you into a low idle state. And when we slow down our breathing, and then especially when we do a slow out breath, we put pressure on a nerve that runs along the anterior part of our spine called the dorsal vagal complex. What this does when you make a slow out breath is that it connects with the medulla oblongata, which is in your brainstem, which controls autonomic functions like heart rate. And when you put this pressure with a slow out breath on the dorsal vagal complex, it sends a message to the medulla oblongata to slow down your heart rate. So by doing this intentional breathing in Kriya Yoga, the slow intentional breathing, you stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, you slow down your heart rate, and then you start to get into an internalized state. And we experience this as a galvanic skin response, which has also been called the freeze response. So you start to feel tingling throughout your body, right? Tingling that signals your parasympathetic nervous system is becoming predominant. And you start to relax and you start to get internalized and become very still. So it induces, Kriya Yoga induces this internalization, this meditative state very quickly, very effectively, which is why it is considered as an advanced practice. And so, but it's not really that advanced, it just is effective. So that is really the first major secret of Kriya Yoga, is that you leverage your parasympathetic nervous system to get into this low idle state, to bring down your breath rate, to bring down your heart rate. And it brings this equilibrium between heart rate and breath rate, and you start to get internalized. So there's a second secret of Kriya Yoga that a lot of people don't know because they haven't experienced it, and that secret is the tranquil breath. So in yogic lore, they talk about breathlessness. Many yogis say, I reached the breathless state, right? So that they were supposedly not breathing at all, and they became super internalized and had these inner meditative experiences. That is something that is actually called the tranquil breath. It is not true breathlessness. It is a very, very shallow and slow breath. So the breath basically disappears. So Kriya Yoga will help to induce the tranquil breath. And when you have the combination of an internalized state, this pratyahara, right, coming from the heart rate variability, of this intentional breath that brings the breath below the 7 breaths per minute threshold, right? It slows down the heart rate, it slows down the breath rate. When you have that, and when you start to include other techniques from Kriya Yoga, you get this tranquil breath appearing spontaneously in your meditation. And what that does is it brings you into a deeply internalized state. So the kind of state where basically your awareness of the body disappears, your awareness of everything around you disappears, and you are become in this internalized void, right? So this is a coveted state that a lot of different meditation traditions see as an ultimate state. Sometimes they talk about it as the void. It's really a stepping stone to different states of meditation, but you can get there with Kriya Yoga. And as well, you will get similar results with something called heart rate variability resonance breathing. Now, this is an aspect which is distilled from Kriya Yoga, and it's a basic, very easy practice to do. I have some videos on my channel that talk about heart rate variability resonance breathing. So look it up and follow along with those particular guided meditations, because they're very effective of getting you into an internalized state. So you can start to experience meditation in 5 minutes or less. You don't have to be spending 20 to 30 years following your breath in an ineffective meditation to get there. So if you go and you see people who are seasoned veterans in meditation, one of the things that you'll notice, if you count the way that they breathe, count the breaths per minute, you notice that it's usually pretty low and they are getting internalized. Whereas people who are more new to a meditation practice, if you count their breath rate per minute, you will realize that they're breathing fairly quickly and they might be fidgeting around, right? Because they're not leveraging their parasympathetic nervous system to get this internalized state, this freeze response, this galvanic skin response, right? So they're like, their sympathetic nervous system is still active, they're trying to control their thoughts, all of these kinds of things, which many consider the pitfalls of meditation. But you can solve all of those issues about getting into meditation by doing this simple intentional breathing, right? So heart rate variability resonance breathing, or if you practice Kriya Yoga. Now, if you do practice Kriya Yoga, you want to understand why things work in Kriya Yoga, the best practices, right? So there are different traditions out there that teach Kriya Yoga in different ways. But many schools, although well-meaning and wanting to pass on their tradition of Kriya Yoga, sometimes don't fully understand the best practices and the principles behind the way that Kriya Yoga works. They have different kinds of explanations that are more mythological or more kind of religious-based, that don't actually allow people to make changes and tweaks in their meditation to get results. I care about results, and so when working with students, and I work with folks on a one-to-one basis, I always try to give them the principles so that they fully understand them, so they can apply those principles, so they can build their skills, they can get results in meditation. And certainly we want to honor the teachings of Kriya Yoga, of Lahiri Baba, and these different lineages. But we want to understand how to apply principles to get best results for our meditation and our spiritual development. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.